This story is titled, I Came Home Early and Overheard My Girlfriend Bragging About Cheating on Me, so I Left Without a Word. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. What's up, Reddit? Throw away for obvious reasons cause this shit's about to get wild. Honestly, never thought I'd be one of those guys posting about relationship drama, but here we are. Buckle up. So I, 25 male, had been with Kayla, 23 female, for 3 years. We met at this shitty bar downtown through mutual friends. She was hot. We met during trivia night when she destroyed everyone with her random knowledge of 80s action movies. My kind of girl. She was wearing this little black top and jeans that fit just right, slamming back tequila shots like they were water. Our first date was at this sketchy taco place that ended up giving us both food poisoning. Most girls would have been pissed, but Kayla thought it was hilarious. We spent our second date recovering on my couch, binging Breaking Bad, and ordering safe, boring pizza. When she beat my ass at Call of Duty later that night, I was pretty much done for. 8 months in, we moved into this overpriced shoebox apartment downtown. It was way too expensive, but the location was close to everything. I was making decent money as a software dev at this startup. My job was intense. Not just your standard 40-hour gig, but full-on 60-plus hour weeks, sometimes 80-plus during launch periods. I was coding till my eyes bled, downing energy drinks like water, and sleeping under my desk some nights. We were building this payment processing platform that the VCs were crazy about, but they kept moving the goalposts. Add this feature. Change that interface. Can it also walk your dog and do your taxes? The whole tech bro grind was real. Patagonia vests, all hands meetings that could have been emails, ping pong tables nobody had time to use, but the money was solid. 6 figures plus stock options that might actually be worth something if we didn't implode. I was climbing the ladder too. Went from junior dev to team lead in under 2 years. Meanwhile, Kayla was supposedly finishing her psychology degree while working part-time as a waitress at this upscale restaurant downtown, where entrees cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I say supposedly because she'd been 1 semester away from graduating, for like 2 years. Every semester it was some new excuse. This professor doesn't like me. I need to retake statistics. My advisor messed up my credits. She'd talk about these big plans for grad school and becoming a therapist, but somehow never actually finished the basic requirements for her bachelor's. I was covering about 70% of our expenses: rent, utilities, groceries, car payments, even her phone bill. Her contribution was basically just her personal spending and occasionally picking up dinner. But I didn't mind at the time because I thought we were building something together. I figured once she graduated and started her career, things would even out. She always had these big plans about how she'd support me if I ever wanted to start my own company or work on my indie game idea. The first 2 years were actually solid, though. I can't lie. We had this dumb tradition of Taco Tuesday, where we'd try to outdo each other, making increasingly ridiculous tacos. My peak creation was a flamin' hot Cheetos taco shell with Korean BBQ filling that was so good we made it again for her birthday. She once made this monstrosity with blue corn shells, mango salsa, and cricket protein. That was somehow disgusting and amazing at the same time. We did weekend hiking trips where she'd complain the whole way up the mountain, but then be so stoked at the summit that it made it all worth it. I remember this one trip to Eagle Peak where it started raining halfway up, and instead of turning back, we just went for it and ended up covered in mud, but laughing our asses off at how ridiculous we looked. But around year 3, things started changing. The fun, adventurous girl who would go camping in the rain and eat cricket tacos was replaced by someone who was constantly on her phone and too tired for anything I suggested. Now I realized the red flags were waving in my face like I was at a damn parade, but maybe I was too busy or too clueless. First, it was small stuff. She'd get super defensive if I asked basic questions like, "How was your day?" Or, "Who was that texting you?" Her phone was suddenly password protected and always face down. She'd jump every time it buzzed. Classic cheater behavior, but I was too naive to see it. Then she started with the late study sessions at the library. She'd come home at midnight smelling like perfume and mints. When I'd ask about her studies, she'd give these vague answers about research methods and statistical analysis. I barely understood her actual major, but even I knew something wasn't adding up. I started noticing other weird shit too. She'd get these random calls and step outside to take them. She'd claim they were from her mom or her girlfriends, but she'd speak in this hushed voice I'd never heard her use before. Sometimes she'd come home with new stuff, clothes, jewelry, makeup, and get defensive when I'd ask where they came from. I've had this forever, or it was on sale, were her go-to excuses. There was this one guy at my office, Jensen from marketing, who she seemed weirdly interested in. Whenever I'd mention work, she'd ask if Jensen was there or what he was up to. I thought maybe she was just being nice, taking an interest in my work life. She even suggested we invite him and his wife out for dinner sometime. I thought it was a bit random but didn't think much of it. We had a company holiday party last December, and Kayla insisted on coming even though she usually hated my work functions. She spent half the night chatting with Jensen while I networked with the higher-ups. I remember thinking it was cool that she was making an effort with my colleagues. Man, I was so freaking naive. By the time our anniversary was approaching, we were basically roommates who occasionally had awkward sex. Kayla was barely around, always studying or working extra shifts. I kept telling myself it was just a phase. We'd get through it. Maybe we just needed a vacation or something. There was this new designer at my office, Yulia. Absolute smoke show, but also wicked smart and actually cool to talk to. Kayla met her once at a company thing and immediately hated her. Got super jealous and accused me of having a thing for her. I didn't, but Kayla's reaction was insane. She'd make these snide comments about Yulia's looks, saying she was trying too hard or looked desperate. Meanwhile, Yulia was just being professional and friendly. Little did I know that jealousy was just her projecting. By February this year, I was seriously considering whether this relationship was worth saving. I even looked up breaking lease penalties, wondering if I should just cut my losses and move out. But then Kayla would have these moments where she'd seem like her old self again. Affectionate, fun, present, just enough to keep me hanging on, thinking things might get better. Another manipulation tactic I didn't recognize at the time. I was planning to have a serious, where is this going talk with her after my big project deadline. Figured we'd either commit to fixing things or call it quits. There was no need to waste more time. But then last Tuesday happened, and the decision was made for me in the most screwed up way possible. So last Tuesday started out totally normal. I'd been grinding on this massive project for weeks, building this payment processing system that the client needed like yesterday. My boss comes by around 2 p.m. and tells me the client canceled our afternoon demo because some emergency came up on their end. Suddenly, I had this rare free afternoon, which basically never happens. I decided to surprise Kayla with dinner from this Thai place she's obsessed with. Like $18 for pad Thai obsessed. Ridiculous prices, but I figured it'd be a nice gesture since we'd barely seen each other all month. Maybe we could actually have a conversation for once or watch something together. I didn't text her that I was coming home early. Wanted it to be a surprise. I grabbed the food and drove home, actually feeling good. I park outside our building and head up the stairs to our third-floor apartment. As I get inside, I hear Kayla's voice in our bedroom. She's on the phone, laughing about something. I stand right outside our door, takeout bags. What I heard got me freezing in my place. No, he has absolutely no idea, she's saying, her voice all smug and amused. He's so clueless, it's actually sad. He thinks I'm at the library studying when I'm with you. My stomach drops to my feet. I'm standing there with the food like an idiot, just listening. Yeah, we can meet again tomorrow. He's got some big project deadlines, so he'll be at the office late. I'll tell him I have a study group or something. Works every time. She just keeps going, completely unaware I'm standing 3 feet away hearing every word. Jensen, you're so much better than him in every way. There's no competition. Sometimes I have to fake being tired just so I don't have to sleep with him anymore. Jensen, from my office. The marketing guy who always has great ideas in meetings but never actually does any work. The same Jensen who's married to Sarah from accounting. It all clicked in that moment. The late nights studying. The lack of interest. She wasn't stressed about study. She was screwing my coworker and laughing about it behind my back. I know, right? And he's so easy to manipulate. If he ever suspects anything, I just have to act all sweet for a day or two, and he forgets all about it. She laughs again. I hear her moving around inside, probably getting ready to end the call. I'm still frozen in place, the Thai food getting cold in the bags I'm clutching. Love you too. Can't wait for tomorrow. That's when something in me just snapped. Not in a rage way, more like a clarity way. Like I'd been looking at one of those magic eye pictures for 3 years, and suddenly the real image popped out. And the real image was that my girlfriend was a lying, cheating bitch who not only betrayed my trust, but actively disrespected and mocked me. I could have barged in, could have confronted her right then and there, made a big dramatic scene, thrown the food, yelled, whatever. That's probably what she would have expected. But in that moment, I decided I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. I wasn't going to be the angry, jealous boyfriend she could paint as the bad guy. So I turned around, walked back down the hallway, down the stairs, and got in my car. I drove away before she could spot me from the window. I ended up parked in some random mall parking lot, just sitting there trying to process what the hell had just happened. 3 years of my life with someone who could talk about me like that. Someone who could betray me so casually. And with a coworker. The humiliation was next level. Then I called my buddy Brian. He was the one guy I knew wouldn't blab to anyone in our social circle. I asked him if I could crash at his place for now, and he said yes. He didn't ask questions, just gave me his address. By the time I got to Brian's place, I had the beginnings of a plan. Not just to leave Kayla, but to completely remove myself from her life in a way she wouldn't see coming. No chance for her to spin some bullshit story. Just gone. Brian took one look at my face when he opened the door and said, "Dude, what the hell happened?" I walked in, sat on his couch, and told him everything. He nodded slowly, then got up and grabbed 2 energy drinks from his fridge. So I woke up the next morning with this weird calm. I checked my phone. 3 texts from Kayla asking where I was. "Hey, where are you? Thought you were working late? Are you coming home tonight? Hello? Answer me, please." I texted back. "Got stuck at work. Crashing at the office. Don't wait up." While she thought I was grinding away at my desk, I was actually executing what Brian and I started calling the ghost protocol. Step 1. Secure the finances. I logged into our joint account, technically my account that I'd added her to, and transferred every penny to a new account at a different bank. Kayla had a habit of borrowing from our shared funds for her shopping sprees, so there wasn't much left anyway, maybe $2,300. But it was the principle of the thing. Next, I called my landlord. Told him I needed to remove myself from the lease ASAP due to a family emergency. Guy was surprisingly cool about it once I offered to forfeit my half of the security deposit. $1,100 down the drain, but worth every penny to be legally disconnected from that apartment and Kayla. While Kayla was at her waitressing shift, Brian helped me move all my essential stuff out. We had like a 3-hour window, so we grabbed my computer, clothes, important documents, and a few sentimental items. Left all the furniture. Most of it was cheap IKEA shit anyway. I left my key on the kitchen counter with a note that just said, "I heard your phone call with Jensen. We're done. Don't contact me again." I also left a copy of the lease modification showing I was no longer legally responsible for the rent. That $1,800 a month apartment was now entirely her problem, on her waitress salary, while she was 1 semester away from a degree she'd never finish. Good luck with that. The next part was trickier. Work. I couldn't just quit my job because of this asshole Jensen. I'd worked too hard to build my career there. So I did the next best thing. I called in sick for the rest of the day, claiming I had some nasty stomach bug. Gave me time to figure out my next move while Kayla's world imploded. I blocked her number, her email, all her social media, everything. But I knew that wouldn't stop her for long. So I also warned all my friends not to tell her where I was. Sure enough, by that evening, my phone was blowing up with calls from unknown numbers and messages from her friends. I didn't answer any of them. The one time I slipped and read a message, it was the usual manipulative garbage. "Please talk to me. There's been a huge misunderstanding. Whatever you think you heard isn't what happened. We need to talk about this like adults." Like adults? Rich coming from someone who was trash-talking me while screwing my coworker. The best part of ghosting someone is the complete power shift. For 3 years, Kayla had been pulling the strings, lying to my face. Now I was the one in control, and she was scrambling, desperate for information, for contact, for anything. Day 2 of the ghost protocol, I started getting voicemails from Kayla, sobbing about how worried she was, how she just wanted to know I was safe. By day 3, those turned into angry messages about how childish and immature I was being by not talking to her. Meanwhile, I was setting up my new life. I found a short-term rental closer to work. Nothing fancy, just a studio apartment with basic furniture. But it was clean and Kayla-free. I also started digging into this whole Jensen situation. We worked at the same company, on different floors, different departments. His poor wife Sarah had no clue. I'd see her sometimes in the cafeteria, bringing him lunch. She seemed nice, normal, didn't deserve the shit sandwich her husband was about to serve her. That's when I got my first truly brilliant idea. If Kayla and Jensen wanted to play dirty, I could play dirty too. But my version of dirty was much, much dirtier. I was going to sit back and watch their little affair self-destruct spectacularly, and I knew exactly how to light the fuse. Nothing says I'm a cheating asshole quite like a massive bouquet of red roses delivered to your home. That's exactly what I was counting on as I punched in my credit card details on fancyflowers.com from Brian's couch. I splurged for the Eternal Love package, 2 dozen long stem roses, premium vase, the works. $95 plus delivery, but you can't put a price on perfect revenge. I scheduled the delivery for 6 p.m. Wednesday, when I knew Sarah would be home from accounting. For the card, I channeled my inner romance novelist. Jensen, I miss you so much it hurts. Last night was incredible. Can't wait to feel you again. Love always, Kayla XOXO. I even paid extra for the fancy handwritten card option so it wouldn't look printed. I'd learned from our company directory that Jensen and Sarah lived in this fancy suburban neighborhood about 20 minutes from downtown. White picket fence type shit, perfect setting for a marriage to implode. After placing the order, I slept like a baby for the first time since discovering Kayla's betrayal. There's something deeply satisfying about knowing you've set a ticking time bomb that's completely out of your hands. By this point, Kayla had been blowing up every possible communication channel trying to reach me. She'd shown up at my office twice, but security wouldn't let her in. On Wednesday, I actually went back to work. Needed to be there to witness the aftermath. Jensen was in the break room when I walked in. The color drained from his face like he'd seen a ghost, which technically he had. The ghost of the guy whose girlfriend he'd been banging. I just nodded at him casually and made my coffee like nothing was wrong. The confused look on his face was priceless. Around 4 p.m., he got a text that made him jump. Checked the time on my watch. Yep, the flower shop confirming delivery time. Classic. He immediately stepped out, probably calling Kayla to warn her about the incoming floral missile. I left work at 5:30, timing it so I'd be in the parking lot with a clear view of Jensen's car when he inevitably made his panicked exit. Sure enough, at 6:12 p.m., Jensen came sprinting out of the building, loosening his tie, face flushed with panic. He peeled out of the parking lot like his car was on fire. Too late, buddy. Way too late. The next morning was better than Christmas. I got to work early, grabbed a spot in the common area with my laptop, pretending to work while actually just waiting for the show. The accounting department shared our floor, so I had front row seats. Sarah came in first, eyes red, but head held high. Respect. Jensen slunk in about 20 minutes later, looking like absolute garbage. Same clothes as yesterday. Complete deer in headlights expression. He headed straight for his office, avoiding eye contact with everyone. The whispers started immediately. Our office thrived on gossip, and something major had clearly happened between Golden Boy Jensen and his wife. I just sat there, sipping my coffee, enjoying the chaos I'd unleashed with one flower delivery. Around 10 a.m., the real fireworks started. Sarah marched across the office to Jensen's door, a stack of papers in hand. Even from a distance, I could tell they were divorce papers. She didn't knock, just barged right in and slammed the door. The shouting was muffled, but everyone on the floor could hear enough. Choice phrases like disgusting liar and how could you echoed through the thin walls. People were pretending to work while straining to listen. By lunchtime, the entire office knew. Jensen had been caught cheating with some waitress, if they only knew. HR called him in for a meeting that lasted over an hour. Turns out our company had a pretty strict policy about creating a hostile work environment, and sleeping with a coworker's girlfriend definitely qualified. Meanwhile, Kayla had apparently figured out I knew about Jensen, because her messages took on a new, desperate tone. My favorite was the novel-length email with the subject line, "It's not what you think," all caps, because clearly that makes bullshit more believable. I didn't respond to any of it, just watched from a distance as both their lives unraveled. Jensen was put on administrative leave by the end of the day, which everyone knew was corporate speak for cleaning out your desk while we prepare your termination paperwork. The best part? I never had to say a word. Never had to confront either of them. Sometimes the simplest plans are the most effective. That night, I treated myself to a steak dinner at this fancy place downtown that Kayla had always wanted to try. Took a window seat, ordered the most expensive item on the menu, and enjoyed my night. A week after the flower bomb, Kayla finally tracked me down at Brian's place. No idea how she found out where he lived. Probably harassed one of our mutual friends until they cracked. She showed up on a Saturday morning while I was still in my boxers eating cereal and watching reruns of The Office. The pounding on the door was so aggressive Brian thought we were being raided. He peeked through the peephole, and his eyes went wide. "Dude, it's Kayla, and she looks freaking unhinged." I sighed and put down my cereal. Knew this confrontation was coming eventually. Can't ghost someone forever in a city this size. "Let her in," I said. Brian opened the door and Kayla burst in like a hurricane. She looked awful. Mascara streaked down her face, hair unwashed, wearing what looked like pajama pants with a dressy top. Real mental breakdown chic. The second she saw me sitting there casually eating my cinnamon toast crunch, she lost it completely. Started screaming about how I'd ruined her life, how Jensen had dumped her, how she was 3 months behind on rent because I'd abandoned her. I just kept eating my cereal. This clearly pissed her off even more. She grabbed a throw pillow from Brian's couch and hurled it at my head. Missed by a mile. Her aim was bad anyway. "Are you even listening to me?" she shrieked. "Do you have any idea what I've been through?" I swallowed my cereal, set the bowl down, and finally spoke. "You mean like how I felt hearing you laugh about me on the phone? Explaining how you manipulated me and lied to my face? That kind of been through stuff? That wasn't... You don't understand," she stammered. "I understand perfectly," I said. "You cheated with my coworker, mocked me behind my back, and now you're mad because there were consequences. Seems pretty straightforward to me." That's when the tears started. Not the angry tears from before, but the calculated, manipulative waterworks I'd fallen for so many times before. Pure bullshit, start to finish. The old me would have comforted her, would have at least considered giving her another chance. The new me just watched with detached fascination, like I was observing a nature documentary about predatory behavior. "The flowers were a nice touch," she said between sobs. "Jensen's wife threw all his stuff on the lawn. She's filing for divorce." I didn't confirm or deny anything, just shrugged. "He blames me for everything," she continued. "Says I ruined his life. He blocked my number. Blocked me everywhere." I shook my head, pretending to feel bad for her. "And now I'm about to be evicted because I can't afford the rent by myself," she wailed, like this was somehow a surprise. Like actions don't have consequences. "Sounds rough," I said. "Maybe try the library? I hear they have free internet and heating." Brian snorted from the kitchen where he'd been pretending not to eavesdrop. Kayla's tears dried up instantly. "You think this is funny? You destroyed my life over one mistake." "One mistake, huh? That's an interesting way to describe a months-long affair where you explicitly discussed manipulating me." She didn't have an answer for that, just stared at me with this mixture of hatred and desperation. "What do you want, Kayla?" I finally asked. "You tracked me down. You got your confrontation. What's the end game here?" She wiped her eyes, suddenly looking small and defeated. "I need money for rent. Just until I figure something out. I'll pay you back." And there it was. Not reconciliation, not genuine remorse. I actually laughed, couldn't help it. The audacity was just too much. "No," I said simply. "Not my problem anymore." "But where am I supposed to go?" she practically wailed. "My parents live across the country." "Sounds like a great time for a road trip," I replied, picking up my cereal bowl again. She tried to argue, but Brian wasn't having it. He practically herded her toward the exit, while she kept looking back at me like she couldn't believe this was happening. And just before Brian closed the door, she shouted, "You'll regret this! Both of you!" The door closed, and I could hear her storming down the hallway, still yelling threats and insults. Brian turned to me with raised eyebrows. "Well, that was intense." I nodded, finishing my now soggy cereal. "Yep, but necessary." So, it's been 3 months since the Kayla meltdown at Brian's apartment. And honestly, life has done a complete 180. After spending so long walking on eggshells in my own relationship, being single felt like taking off a 50-pound backpack I didn't even realize I was carrying. First order of business after the Kayla drama was finding my own place. I snagged this sweet one-bedroom downtown, not far from work. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. And there's no one drinking my coffee or leaving makeup all over the bathroom counter. I bought new furniture. Actual quality stuff. My new couch doesn't feel like sitting on cardboard, which is a nice upgrade. Jensen was officially fired. HR had a field day with him. Turns out Kayla wasn't the only inappropriate relationship he'd been having at the office. Guy was a walking HR violation. His wife Sarah cleaned him out in the divorce proceedings too. Don't cheat on someone who works in accounting, fellas. They know exactly where all the money is hidden. I hit the gym regularly now, started meal prepping instead of living on takeout, even picked up rock climbing at this indoor place near my apartment. Lost the relationship 15 I'd gained with Kayla, and actually have visible abs for the first time since college. Who knew getting cheated on would be so good for my fitness journey? The best part about the whole situation was watching the ripple effects from a safe distance. Jensen not only lost his job and wife, but apparently most of his friends too. Saw him at a bar downtown a few weeks ago, drinking alone, looking like absolute shit. I ordered him a drink from across the room. Petty, I know, but so satisfying seeing his face when the bartender pointed me out. I just raised my glass, smiled, and went back to my conversation. Didn't even need to say a word. Sometimes silence is more powerful than any insult. As for Kayla, she got evicted from our old apartment as expected. According to mutual friends, she had to move in with one of her waitress colleagues, some tiny studio where she sleeps on the couch. She also finally dropped out of college. Shocking, I know. Turns out 1 semester away was actually more like 6 semesters away. She's been trying to reinvent herself on social media, posting all these fake deep quotes about growth and finding herself. Meanwhile, she's telling anyone who'll listen that I was emotionally abusive, and that's why we broke up. Classic from someone who can't accept responsibility for nuking their own life. But the real cherry on top of this revenge Sunday? Yulia from the design team. Remember her? The gorgeous smoke show blonde that Kayla was always insanely jealous of? Turns out Kayla's paranoia wasn't completely unfounded. Not because I had any interest in Yulia back then, but because Yulia apparently had her eye on me for months. LOL. About 6 weeks after the Kayla explosion, Yulia caught me in the break room and asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime. I was still in that post-breakup mindset where I assumed everyone knew my business, so I was surprised when she seemed genuinely unaware of the whole Kayla Jensen saga. "I heard you're single now," she said. "I've always thought you were cute, but, office relationships can be complicated. But would you like to grab some coffee sometimes?" Understatement of the century right there. I almost said no. Trust issues and all that. But then I remembered how Kayla used to seethe with jealousy whenever Yulia was mentioned. How she'd make these snide comments about Yulia being too pretty to be smart or trying too hard. Realized that getting coffee with Yulia would drive Kayla absolutely insane if she ever found out. So we got coffee, and then dinner a few days later, and then drinks the following weekend. Turns out Yulia is not only gorgeous, but also smart, funny, and genuinely kind. She's got this infectious laugh that makes everyone around her smile. Total opposite of Kayla's calculated persona. Kayla found out we were seeing each other through the office grapevine. The meltdown was epic, according to witnesses. She showed up at my office again, but security remembered her from before and wouldn't let her pass the lobby. She caused such a scene they had to call the actual police to remove her. That's when my company finally filed a restraining order against her, which was a relief. Having legal documentation that your ex is batshit crazy is strangely validating. Yulia and I have been dating for about 2 months now. We're taking it slow. Both of us have trust issues from previous relationships. She's teaching me to cook something besides protein shakes and microwave burritos, which my body appreciates. Last weekend, Yulia and I ran into Kayla at this coffee shop near the office. Kayla was there with some new guy, clearly trying to make me jealous. She kept laughing too loudly and touching his arm, looking over to see if I was watching. It was pathetic. I genuinely didn't care. Yulia and I grabbed our coffees and left without acknowledging them. Outside, Yulia turned to me and said, "So that's the famous Kayla, huh? Gotta say, trading up is the best revenge. Couldn't have said it better myself. The whole experience taught me some lessons. First, trust your gut. Those little red flags I ignored? They were waving right in my face the whole time. Second, how someone handles adversity shows you who they really are. Kayla's immediate response to consequences was to blame everyone else and try to manipulate her way out. That tells you everything you need to know about her character. Most importantly, I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. A year ago, if you'd told me my girlfriend was cheating with my coworker, I would have predicted a total breakdown. Instead, I handled it with a cold calculation that surprised even me. So if you're reading this and going through something similar, being cheated on, lied to, manipulated, cut them off, focus on yourself, and watch as karma does its thing. Living well really is the best revenge. Though I gotta say, sending those flowers was a pretty close second.